I am closer to done.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checker TV. We are here with the Dark Horse Area 51 IndyCar Series tonight at Twin Ring Motegi, playoff race number 3. I'll say it's looking a little sketchy to kick things off. I'll say whenever you've got the new build week, you always get a little nervous, and I guess there are some hosting issues. Not of iRacing is doing, but just overall. I'm sure a lot of you know some various things of yours online weren't probably doing what they're supposed to be doing, so. Looks like all is well once again, knock on wood, so we'll have to wait and see there. But right now, drivers qualifying for the 110 lap race here that we have this evening. And we'll got to kick things off though, Steve. We got to talk about our point standings going into tonight, because it is a 3-point gap between our championship leader now, Matt Wagner, and our second place driver of Nick DeGroot. So I'll say Matt jumping his way up into that top spot. And then in third, we've got Jeff Heisong, really strong start to the playoffs here from as well, 21 out of the lead. And then Henry Bennett misses a race, but then comes on extremely strong. So if he can put 2 more races like he did last week, basically kind of just dominate the race, get the pole, lead all the laps pretty much, and win that race, get all those bonus points, he could definitely be in contention to try to see if he can even find a way to be in championship hunt come next week at Indy. Then you got in 5th Charles Teed there, 38 out of the lead. Gary Brubacher 41. And unfortunately, just nothing's been going right for Andrew Wood, Craig Forsyth. Those two drivers 69 and 70 points out of the lead respectively. I think at this point these guys are just going to be going for the kind of just try to beat one another, honestly. And then also again, there's the extra incentive for those not in the playoffs. And that's been Scott Rankin, has just been on a roll right now. You can see he's at 233 points in that car compared to Jim Brooks at 209. So a pretty solid margin that he's got over those guys behind him as they run right now.
So is that basically a competition for best of the rest? And what is the reward for getting that?
It is the best of the rest, and if I had it closer handy, I would tell you, but these guys got too chatty on Discord. I believe there is a cash prize involved, though, for that best of the rest. So I'm going to scroll for a while until I get tired of scrolling and see if we can find anything. But at the moment, haven't come across it. So what we'll do is maybe we'll be able to pull up Matt Wagner at some point. We can get a chat with him to find out exactly what all isn't involved in that one. But right now, let's say qualifying still underway here at Twin Ring Motegi. So now, Steve, while we have a moment, I'm going to throw some trivia your way. Because obviously this track has been used before in IndyCar and actually has also been used in NASCAR as well. It's about a 1.55 mile oval here. But it's a very interesting shaped oval here. It's kind of the best way I can describe it is almost like a gateway where turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 are very, very different. 1 and 2 here, a lot longer, wider sweeping turn. You can really take it full tilt all the way around in these cars. However, 3 and 4, you're going to have to drop it down probably a couple gears, probably get it down to 4th gear from 6th through that 3 and 4. And then, but again, very, very long straight is going to allow for a lot of drafting here tonight.
So, Gael, I was hoping to get out there and get some laps in to actually see in person what this track is like, because I've never been on it. But for people who don't know much about iRacing, they have every 13-week major update to the program, and so I got that surprise when I signed on tonight, and it is still downloading. But Gateway is an interesting track, and as Guy was saying, it's one turn is a lot narrower than the other. I don't know what the banking is on the turns at Twin Ring, but at Gateway, the wide sweeping turn has a fairly flat banking, much like you'd see Phoenix, New Hampshire, tracks like that, Pocono, and then the tight turn. I don't know what to compare it to. It makes me kind of think of USA Speedway a little bit.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the part that's a little tricky, is to try to kind of do those comparisons. However, though, before we get into all of that, though, Steve, I got to pull up our qualifying order for tonight, because qualifying just has completed. And it's going to be Matt Wagner on pole position in that number 11. So right there, 1 bonus point in the bank for him in that 11 car. Henry Bennett 9 thousandths off in second. Then you got Andrew with third, Scott Rankin fourth, Nick DeGroot rounds out our top 5. Then you got Yari Brupacher, Craig Forsyth, Charles Teed, Jeff Heisong, Jim Herrick, our top 10. And then in 11th, you've got Jim Brooks, 12th, Joseph Morales. And we'll drop down a little bit further, say a few more cars here tonight. James Ledford and Carl Henderson, Jimmy Drine. It looks like 15 taking part into tonight. So I'll say not a lot of drivers making the overseas trip here tonight to that Twin Ring Motegi, Steve. Say some might just be due to maybe not owning the track. Some, like you said, maybe kind of like you, having to actually still get the updates may have prevented them from getting in on time, unfortunately. It's kind of funny because it kind of goes back to the kart IRL days, and that's going to be one of those little fun facts I bring up is back when that split was going on, they actually, it was like, I believe it was Long Beach was where kart was racing, IRL running at Twin Ring Motegi, and saying for those that are familiar with IndyCar, say that's that Twin Ring Motegi race in, I'm trying to find the year, I had it handy here a second ago. But it was basically, it's the only race that was the one IndyCar win that Danica Patrick had in 2008, becoming the first woman to win an IndyCar race, beating Helio Castroneves for that race. And another fun fact, though, for you, Steve, 1998, NASCAR actually came out here for an exhibition race, and it was actually the first ever oval track race in Japan, and also the first where Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. got to compete against one another. So, fun little trivia facts here tonight.
I vaguely remember that one.
So yeah, so some pretty cool little things that that this track's been able to do. And like I said, it's definitely a bit of a love-hate track. I feel like for a lot of drivers, say Matt Wagner, he's been one to just put no surprise on. He's just very, very fond of this track. He's mentioned he hasn't had the luck that he's been wanting here, but he just really enjoys racing this track. And I mean, that's one of those things that to really succeed at, you got to have that just. I think having that little bit of extra just enjoyment and fun at these races, I think it goes a long way. As I say, there's always some drivers that kind of go superstitious, where it's like, okay, yeah, I like this track, and every time I say that, I have a bad race, so I'm going to say I hate this track and hope that the tides turn. But I say Matt's definitely hasn't been shy about kind of telling us about his fondness for the track, but at the same time, kind of just being so disappointed that not having the results that he feels like he wants to have and that he should be getting in these races.
Well, he's been certainly doing well lately. He just I think was just being a little bit cautious about wanting to say how good he might do tonight at this track. And
yeah, yeah, exactly right. You never want to kind of call your shot too often. So it usually kind of goes against how you would race these things. As we just take the green flag, and right now Matt Wagner gets a great start over Henry Bennett. And saying right now it's between Scott Rankin and Andrew Wood for that third position. But yeah, right away here, Matt Wagner, he's going to try to protect that inside line. I say now he's going to move up to the top, try to get a nice arc into turn number 3. That's, again, carry that momentum through. Henry Bennett's going to run the low side here. And Henry Bennett's going to get a great exit out of turn number 4. He's going to lead lap number 1. So unfortunately for Matt, he's not going to get that bonus point for a lap led as of yet. So that's going to be on his mind, though.
I've got the track loading now.
And Carl Henderson got involved in something. He's had to hit pit road here, unfortunately, for that number 42 car. So tough start here for Carl. See if I can try to find what happened to Carl. So we're going to jump back to him. So it looks like he was coming out through 3 and 4. Yeah, he just gets really tight, just catches the outside wall, but is able to keep it pointed straight and then just cut it straight down into the pit. So going to lose a little bit of time, obviously, with that. Looks like he's... Yeah, there goes fast repair now. So he's going to drop a lap, though, Steve. However, is going to still be a part of this race here. 1 lap down in 15th.
That's rough. That's 2 races in a row that Carl had trouble in
Oh,
early on.
Charles Teed as well. Looks like he's had a moment as well, and I think he had to take a tow to the pits. I'm gonna jump back once more here, try to see what happened. I think once again, I think it's gonna be turns 3 and 4 that bites another driver. This time being the 50 car. So we'll pick things up speed a little bit here. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. Turn 2, just arrow. I think probably just arrow tight. He just drives up, gets stuck up against the outside wall, and just he can't get the car off the wall until the very end. And I think just too much damage for it to continue on. But I believe he wound up having to tow to the pit lane as well. So unfortunately, one of our championship contenders not having the night he was looking for there either in that 50.
That's rough to have to be running for the championship and have something go wrong that early. Just I can tell you, it plays with your mind. Been there.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Especially when it happens so early, you kind of takes the wind out of your sails, where you feel like I couldn't even get myself kind of in the rhythm and get going here. But what has happened up front is just Henry Bennett doing Henry Bennett things right now, Steve. He is just going after it. Yeah, I mean, he's got about a half a second lead, 0.6 now over Matt Wagner. I mean, we talked to him last week. He said he was going to do exactly what he's doing right now, what he did last week as well, try to pretty much get up front, get in control of this race, and try to basically control it, lead the laps, try to lead the most laps, and then see what he can do. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what that's going to be. And do you need to mention, Steve, we never talked about fuel mileage here. I've been hearing roughly about 33 or so laps, but as we've seen before with these guys, they say 33, but it winds up being like a 35 or something like that. And we were kind of crunching the numbers. If they can stretch each run maybe about 3 laps, maybe 4 laps, if at all possible, they could pull a possible 2-stopper. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much set on it being a 3-stopper with this being 110 laps here.
And I would say if it stays green, we're definitely going for 3 laps. Or 3 stops.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So I think if anybody's going to do it, they're going to have to commit to it really early and be very, very committed to it. So watching Jim Brooks, Joseph Morales right now battling for the 10th position. Jim has it, Joseph wants it, but right now it's going to stay with that 51 and further up right now. Craig Forsyth having a good battle there with Jari Brupacher. I think same thing there. Jari trying to get around that 27 car, just hasn't been able to as of yet. And say again, I mean, we'll jump on board here with that number 49 car. Just so much width through turns 1 and 2. You have so much room of where you can take that car, but really it's that car in front of you that's going to dictate where you need to position that car, because then you just do not want to be in that arrow push. And then Jack, man, that was a great run last night. I'm gutted for you, man. That's how I was hearing everybody congratulate you as you're coming off of 4, but as we both well know, Indianapolis start finish lines way further back further down the straightaway than you'd want it to be when you're close on fuel. I would have loved to be able to give you some extra boost to get across that line to get that win, man. But just awesome job though, getting that 2nd place last night. You were definitely on a roll. It was definitely basically just needed to make no mistakes that race to get those results, and so you were able to get that done. So right now, closest battle on track is definitely right here. As I said, here comes Jari now working over Craig Forsyth, entering turn number 3. But again, I think Craig's going to carry that momentum off the exit. Actually, it looks like he loses a little bit of momentum, but not enough for Jari to get around him in that 49, around that 27 car. Henry Bennett's lead about 9/10. Joseph Morales, he's hit pit road as well. I believe possibly a little, it looks like some damage as well to that 60. So this track's definitely being pretty damaging here early on, Steve. Unfortunately for Charles Teed, I think he actually wound up retiring after his incident. Like we were talking about, kind of a deflating situation. I think he's like, you know what, I'm going to go enjoy my night elsewhere, and just you kind of have those racers just like, you just got to step away sometimes. Yep,
done it. As you know. And
we've both been there, done that.
Yeah, usually for me, since I can't eat dinner before I race, that's when I start thinking, you know what, I'm hungry, I'm going to go eat dinner.
Yeah, exactly right. So right now, though, I say this battle right here, though, just is not going away. Jari Brupacher and Craig Forsyth, they just cannot get away from one another here. And unfortunately, say apologies on the paint scheme situation. I still have been having some issues with this. I'm going to have to look a little closer to see why this keeps occurring, where it's not updating the paint job to match the cars. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of hide that. That way we avoid the confusion here.
So I'm getting a chance to do some laps in car right now. I'm in Matt's in car. And I'm noticing that Henry Bennett is he's moving around, trying different lines around at least one of the turns, turns 1 and 2. 3 and 4, both of them seem to be pretty much stuck to the bottom all the way around the turn. But I'm also seeing why this track would be a little bit treacherous as far as push off, because it seems like it flattens it. I mean, both turns are banked somewhat, but they both flatten out pretty quickly. And so it looks like, they're able to run a nice tight line around the inside. But once you're exiting, even though there's so much room, such a wide track, it still seems to want to go right out to the wall.
Yeah, I think the other part too on that, Steve, I think you're spot on, is like you said, the flattening, but then also too is just, it's a pretty aggressive, it's not a very gradual transition from turn to the straightaway. Like, you just kind of see it's almost like the angle really continues pretty much spot on, where it doesn't really kind of elbow out, if you will, kind of like we see at like the D-shaped ovals. So I think that also comes into play, where you basically got to keep that wheel at whatever rotation you have until you hit that straightaway, and then you can really kind of straighten it out.
So Carl Henderson, unfortunately, has gone, I guess, another lap down. He's right now between Henry Bennett and Matt Wagner, and I know Matt's going to want to get by as quick as he can, so he's not getting that arrow push.
Yeah, that was Carl trying to do Matt a favor, but unfortunately, just the timing of it didn't quite pan out there, because basically right there you saw Carl. He was trying to give Matt the top side there, but just by the time they got to the exit of the turn, it wasn't quite enough time. And I think also, honestly, Carl just got too good of a rotation through 3 and 4 there. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's going to definitely cost Matt a little bit of time there with making that pass. But I mean, that's just the nature of these cars in this racing. Is you sometimes you catch lap cars at a good spot, at a bad spot. And of course, like I said, just everybody's in their kind of their own situation with the races here. And it was obvious Carl gave him the top. Just unfortunately, just like I said, the way they kind of met at the exit of 4 was just pretty much exactly what Matt was hoping not to have. But actually, look at the lap times. Recovered quickly, because Matt was about 300ths quicker that time around. 28:10 to 28:07 for Matt. So I say he's able to bounce back from that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I wonder how much, Matt's just kind of holding back a little bit, trying to save from the draft. I believe you've told me that the draft in these cars is about, I think, a second and a half back.
Yeah, about a second and a half. So right now he's probably right on the outer edge of that draft window, and that might be what he's going to have to do here, is if he wants to get back into the toe of Henry Bennett, might have to hustle that car just a little bit more to try to grab that toe right on back and go back after it. But right now the field is definitely kind of spread out. Like I said, the battle that won't go away right now has been right around here with Craig Forsyth, Nick DeGroot, Jari Brupacher. Yari's fallen off a little bit, and it looks like Craig's been able to keep his tires in a pretty good condition, because now he's actually been closing the gap slowly but surely on that number 89 machine. And again, I mean, we're looking at points as they run right now. Matt Wagner leading coming into tonight with the 3 points. Plus the 1 for the pole here. So, I mean, that would put in 4 points just right there over Nick DeGroot. And right now, second place to Nick's 5th position. So he'd be gaining a handful of points there as well.
And what about, let's say that Henry Bennett is able to lead the most laps and win this race. How many points is he going to gain? I know it's like 10 points between first and second place.
Yes, yeah, it's 10 points between first and second. So yeah, so he could gain 10 off of Matt right off the bat there. And then when you apply for like bonuses and things like that, it's 2 more points for the race winner, so he could get 12 points over Matt. And then of course, if he can lead the most laps, that'd be 1 additional point. So that would actually put him up to 13 points over Matt Wagner, which I think would put him to about 25 down. I think we said it was about 38 if I remember right going in. I'll double check that, of course, but I think that would bring him down to about 25 or so off the lead. And honestly, I think that would probably put him in pretty much around third position, if I'm not mistaken, in points right now. But the other thing, though, is he's also, like I said, he's prevented Matt Wagner from getting a lap led here so far tonight. So, I mean, Henry's doing everything he can. Like I said, he's going for max points here. And so you probably don't need to give Henry extra incentive to drive harder, drive faster than he already does. Because I think we're seeing that right now. Just he's pretty much got the bit between his teeth.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for him to have any chance at all at this championship, that's his only choice. He has to go all out.
Yeah, and actually it was 34 points actually between Henry and Matt Wagner, so it would be about 20 points if he can get all those numbers, kind of all those boxes ticked off.
So basically, I mean, if he runs, even if he only ran second the next two races, he could cruise to the win. But
yeah, mathematically he should still clinch the title if Henry does what he's doing tonight and next week, and Matt can, let's say, finish second. Yeah, Matt should still be good to go. But I mean, Indy is Indy too. It's just I think Twin Ring Motegi. I mean, like I said, a little bit of everything tonight, with it being the build night, with this being maybe a track that some drivers may not own. I think that has been a bit of the reason for the attendance drop here tonight. But when you get to the season finale at Indy, I think it's going to be a whole different story. I mean, like I said, especially when you run these IndyCar IR18s, it's just something else. It just draws drivers back to it.
Yeah, and if it's so if it's difficult enough that we've already lost a couple drivers,
and we got some strategy calls going on here, Steve. Andrew Woods hit in pit road, coming to lap number 29. So what he's doing here is he's pretty much committing right now. He says, I'm going to do this 3-stop strategy. I'm not going to save fuel. I'm not going to do a 2-stop. But what I am going to do, I'm going to short pit here, try to get a little bit of maybe some clean air, maybe just try to have that little bit of a pit situation early on. But actually, I think Jimmy Dryden may have had he does. He's had a wreck here in 1 and 2, trying to get it down to the apron. Leaders are on their way. And it looks like he's going to get it off track and probably have to take a tow. So I think that's going to save Andrew Wood here, because that would have trapped him a lap down there. So it looks like at the moment the race is going to continue to play on as it sits. As I say that, Jimmy Dryden started rolling back out onto the apron right in front of the path of Andrew Wood. That was very, very close there. Hopefully Andrew's car is not damaged by that. But yeah, that was a very, very close situation there as well.
That would really mess up Andrew's strategy.
And so I'm not sure if he's having trouble getting the tow button to get back to the pits, because right now, he's in a dangerous spot. Of course they do have that race control that's controlling this race for cautions and not. And so that car's still sitting on the apron. Now he's able to get it towed to the pits here. And I think these drivers are going to start probably getting pretty nervous about if and when they were going to have to make a pit stop there. If that car was going to be on their path on pit exit, as right now it looks like Jim Brooks is going to be the second car to hit pit road, coming to lap 32. Now the question is, how far do we see anybody really try to stretch their field numbers here, Steve, like Matt Wagner or possibly Henry Bennett? Because right now they're going to go through 33 and it looks like heading to 34. So are they running this kind of pace with fuel mileage to boot as well? It'd be pretty interesting to see what these guys got in store here.
Well, Henry Bennett he's had no draft for almost this whole run. So he's going to tell us what the max laps are, since this has been green the whole way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is to see every time he comes through 3 and 4, he takes it so low, I think he's pitting. But here, look at this, though. Matt Wagner. Yeah, he's going to bring Nick DeGroot with him, Yari Brupacher as well. So it's going to be some of our playoff drivers right in along Jeff Hysong as well. So right now 4 drivers here coming at lap number 34. But man, Henry, he's had the speed, Steve, and he's had the fuel mileage to boot. So again, I mean, now the question, like we're running the numbers here. If you can go 35, you'd still be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2 laps short. But look at this, Henry again going to go 1 more lap, as is Scott Rankin. I think, yeah, Craig Forsyth, he's going to hit pit road here. He can only get to 35. So man, Henry and Scott, they've got something going here, Steve.
Yeah, and I think this is, this is going to work out for Henry, I think, and not for Matt, which is not good.
He's going to go one more. I'm doing the quick math right now. So on a two-stop strategy, Steve, if he can go 36 laps, it would actually get him at 108 laps. So he would still be short there. So this coming to 37, I think this will put him right on the number to make it on a two-stop strategy. And right now, it's him and Scott Rankin are the two that are going to try to pull this off here.
And I haven't seen Henry. Oh, here he goes. He's pitting. Got a really good entrance.
Yeah, so again, crunching the numbers real quick. Yeah, so if he can do 37 on this, which he did, he got 37 on this run. If he can do 37 once more, that would basically say if those two stops should be able to get him to lap 111. But now the question is, those extra laps that Henry put on track here, does that allow Matt to maybe at least jump him on the short run here, maybe get that bonus point at least? Because right now, it looks like it's going to be possibly a fuel mileage strategy race here between that 007 of Henry Bennett, the 156 of Scott Rankin, as they both leave pit road now. As now Matt it's going to be, yep. I was going to say, now we got to watch Matt.
Next line.
So Matt's coming out with a pretty big head of steam. Henry just now exits out of 2. He might have enough here, Steve, to hang on to this. What Matt can do now, though, possibly, is if he can get just close enough to Henry, maybe go back to fuel saving in that number 11 car. CSA, last time by, he put down the fastest lap of the race there, 27.67 in that number 11 car. And say this time by about 0.2 slower. But yeah, even with Henry going, let's see, 3 extra laps than Matt Wagner, still able to hold on to that lead. So I think it's just showing the absolute long run pace that Henry Bennett's got as well here tonight.
Yeah, I was hoping that Matt would be able to get to at least get a lap lead here, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, not as of yet. And then also again, so here's the big difference with the strategies. Actually, say either this is a slow pit stop, or Scott Rankin maybe just was further down the order, because he's now fallen down to the 10th position here, 16 seconds off of that number 007 of Henry Bennett. So not sure. I said looking at the pit lane time, he had 50 seconds in the pit lane with an 8-second pit stop. So I think we probably missed a moment for Scott either on entry or exit, and so I think that's actually what's dropped Scott. I mean, basically, let's add, if you take 9 seconds off his interval right now, with him being about 17 down, that put him to about 8 seconds off. So probably around the top 5 or so with around Craig Forsyth, Yari Brubacher. So yeah, unfortunately, whatever happened to Scott there. His pace now is fine. Looks like 27.99 to 91.94 for our leaders. So pace looks good for Scott, but unfortunately just a lot of time lost in pit road.
Yeah, I think he got a speeding on entry. I just watched his entrance to the pit, and it's kind of surprising because unlike what Matt and Henry both did, which was pulling off from turn 4 directly into the pits, Scott got off the track onto the apron in turn 3. And so he was on the apron all the way around, which you would think he would have gotten slowed down in time, but apparently not.
Yeah, it's always a little bit risky as well when you run the apron, because to then have to, again, try to continue that turn through turn number 4 to the pit lane, and then try to stab the brakes to basically prevent it from washing out into the pit wall as well. It's definitely, I think that's why we're seeing those guys pit out of turn number 4 to just kind of get that arc in, if you will. But yeah, it's interesting to see though, and I'm very curious about like you said though, Steve, if it's possibly a pit penalty or not, because
it's not. I just watched his pit stop.
Okay,
I think that was all. He lost all that time because he pulled down on the apron in turn 3.
Oh yeah, you might be right. Just a lot slower of an entry possibly. So right now we're watching Jim Herrick here. He's been closing the gap little by little on Jim Brooks. And say right now is about half a second off in the 8th position, and then further up, Nick DeGroot's trying to close that gap on Andrew. It's pretty even between these guys here, about 0.8 to a second between Andrew, Nick, and Craig. And that's pretty much just what we've got right now on track here, Steve, is everybody's holding pretty steady at about a second and a half. Every so often you'll have a bigger gap between one another, but Right now, definitely has a clean and green look to it at the moment. Jimmy Drennan, he is still sitting in pit road, 15 laps down. As Joseph Morales, actually looks like Joseph's just now hitting pit road for a second time. I think this is a scheduled stop. He had to pit earlier when he had some damage for an unscheduled stop. So this is his second green flag pit stop himself. And then Carl Henderson still sitting right now at 2 down in that 42 car. However, now with Joseph pitting here, that'll put Carl once again as the first car a lap or more down. So I said Carl, of course, hoping for that yellow, but at the moment has not had what he's been looking for to get one. So with the pit stops done, Steve, let's run through the field here real quick. And it's going to start off with our race leader, Henry Bennett. Started in second, got the start he needed, though, was able to grab the lead from Matt Wagner, and so far has led the way flag to flag here. As he's yet to give up a lap lead here as well in that 007, so we're going to cross 47 right now, and it's been 47 laps led by Henry Bennett. Matt Wagner on pole position is now in second position, about a second off of Henry. Was our points leader coming into tonight by 3 over Nick DeGroot. In third position, Andrew Wood just has not been the playoffs he's been looking for. So just pretty much, if the bad luck was available, he's been the one that's been finding it just all season, or I should say all playoff long, unfortunately. So he's just going to have to probably just at this point, I think, just go for the race results here tonight and next week at Indy. And then in fourth position, we mentioned second place coming in tonight by 3 points is that 89 of Nick DeGroot. Started in fifth, currently up into fourth, about 8/10 off of Andrew Wood. And then in our top 5 is Craig Forsyth in that number 27 car. Started in seventh, up to fifth position. And then you got to go about 4 seconds back to Jari Brupacher, who is in the 6th spot right where he started. Another one of our playoff contenders as well. And then right behind him, you've got Jeff Hysong, started in 9th, up into 7th. Right now holding about 1.7 seconds off of Jari. And then another 2-3 seconds back here now to Jim Brooks, who's really starting to come under pressure here from Jim Herrick. So battle of the gyms actually, Steve. So you got Jim Brooks in 8th from 11th, and then Jim Herrick in 9th from the 10th position. Like I said, right now Jim Brooks has it. Jim Herrick definitely is trying to find a way to get around him. And you can see he's running the different grooves, trying to find some clean air to keep the momentum up on that car. And then we mentioned Scott Rankin. Unfortunately, the pit has the pit strategy, I think, right now, like we talked about, Steve, to make that two-stop to the window, or two-stop window to make it to the end instead of the 3 stops. Just unfortunately lost a lot of track position under that green flag stop. And then right now our last car on the lead lap, the 48 of James Ledford, started in 13th, is up into 11th. And then unfortunately Carl Henderson just at this point has not had the yellow that he's been wanting and hoping for, as he sits 2 laps down right now in the 42 car, but has been able to hold on to that spot for the moment. But as I say that, though, Joseph Morales, he's coming out with a pretty good head of steam here, Steve, and that would put Joseph into that position. So this could be a battle for that free pass. Should a caution come out, it's going to be crucial as well, because right now, both of them being 2 down, it would almost guarantee if there's another yellow, that would be the car to get the next one that next time around. So right now, those are the 13 cars we currently have on track here at Twin Ring Motegi.
And I'm showing, I believe, Joseph Morales has 8 laps fresher tires than what Carl Henderson has. So maybe that will help overcome the arrow.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, it is an 8 lap difference indeed. And so he's also, I think that Scott Rankin, it is right behind him. So he's going to have some pretty good pace right behind. Or for Scott, maybe again, this might be a good fuel saving opportunity for him. At this point, just kind of be like, okay, pits didn't go how I wanted to. Let's go ahead and let's get this done here. We're going to jump back up front though here, Steve, because it's starting to tighten up a little bit. Watching Henry Bennett, we're going to look out the back here, because Matt Wagner, he's closed it into under a second, about 8/10 right now. Andrew Wood, he's about a second off of Matt Wagner, and then Nick DeGroot about 6/10 off of Andrew Wood. So right now our top 4 have really started to kind of just start kind of according back into one another here.
What I'm wondering is whether, Matt's doing a good job of hanging on to Henry's draft right now. And I'm wondering whether he's put his fuel map down a bit so that he's trying to save fuel, because I think that his only way of winning this race is, because it looks like it's going to stay green, is to try and stretch it enough to make the same numbers. I guess make one more stop like Henry's going to do. But
that's gonna be a lot of saving this run for Matt if he tries to. The one thing I want to do though is we're gonna listen on board here this next time around. We'll do a lap on board with Henry Bennett, then a lap on board with Matt Wagner. So I want to listen, because especially right here as we come down the backstretch into turn 3, I've been watching and listening right around the 100 board right there. Henry Bennett starts to roll out of it, and I don't think he is by any means charging turn number 3. I think that's really where he's really able to kind of coast and save fuel in that number 007 car. So now I want to switch over to Matt Wagner. We're going to do the same thing with Matt here. We're going to listen to him through turn number 3, because I think Matt is really sending it into turn number 3, Steve, and then pretty much just kind of stomping on the brakes to get that car woed up. And I think that's where we're going to see a big gain on entry. Let's take a listen. Oh yeah, he's going well past the 100 mark. He's pretty much going to the advertisement boards. So Matt Wagner is definitely sending it in way deeper into turn number 3 than Henry Bennett, and I think that's right now the difference in their lap times.
okay, so if he's charging it that hard, he may not be saving fuel.
Yeah, I don't think Matt's saving fuel, but the thing is, even with Henry doing what Henry's doing right now, he's able to make the fuel numbers, it seems like right now. I mean, again, we thought at this point Henry would be the one to kind of lead off the pit stops, but once again, he was one of the latest, him and Scott Rankin able to go the furthest. And as I say that, here comes Nick DeGroot. He's going to short pit here, coming to lap number 59. So again, he's just kind of splitting this pretty much in thirds, if you will. So say pretty much pit around 30, pretty much 30, 60, 90, and then have a little bit left over to in the end if he needs it to. So I'll say Nick going for the slightly early pit stop again, try to maybe take some advantage of those fresh tires, see if he maybe grab a spot or two, get around, let's say, an Andrew Wood, maybe get himself up into that top 2, top 3.
And Matt's just keyed up a couple times, so I wonder, he may be at this point just more doing. He may be conceding that he can't get Henry, but he definitely has to worry the most about Nick DeGroot since they're that close in points. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pits here.
Yeah, that'll be the question. The thing is actually, as you said, here he comes right now. He's going to hit pit road. So that's going to be our second pit stop for our points leader, Matt Wagner. I was going to mention Nick DeGroot. He is sitting a lap down right now. As you can see, actually, Nick's going to go by him on track right there as he crosses, right about as he crosses the start-finish line. It's also brought Jeff Hysong along in with him. Again, this is at 50 to go here. So what they could do, Steve, is they could split this run up into halves and basically go 25-25 to the end. But obviously at this point, I don't think we're going to see Henry Bennett in for another handful of laps. I think he's just going to run this thing at the absolute max that he can go. But what we do need to watch is we're going to go back to Matt Wagner. We're going to watch off the back of his car here, because as he comes out of the pits here, we're going to see that 89 pop into the window very shortly. And there he is as he comes out of turn number 2. Matt Wagner gets up to speed. There's Nick DeGroot. I think that's exactly what Matt Wagner had to do there, Steve. Enough to cover off that short pit attempt by Nick DeGroot. Make sure he does not lose that position on pit road.
Yep, definitely.
And that's also brought now Andrew Wood into pit lane. And need to mention, though, that lap that Nick DeGroot did, again, that was the fastest lap of the race that time around, 27:58 for Nick DeGroot. So, yeah, I mean, he was definitely trying to get everything he could out of that car to see if he could way to jump that 11 of Matt Wagner. But as they sit right now, both are trapped a lap down right now to Henry Bennett, Craig Forsyth, Yari Brubacher, Jim Herrick, Scott Rankin, James Ledford. And so we're going to jump over to Andrew Wood because he's just rolling out of pit road now. We're going to see Matt Wagner swing on by him right there as they go through 1 and 2. Now, again, we'll look out the back. Can Nick DeGroot get around? This is going to be close, Steve, because right now I think Andrew's going to have the the spot, but Nick DeGroot's going to have the momentum as they enter turn 3 side by side.
Oh, Nick just couldn't quite do it.
He is not done yet. He's going to get right on the draft. He's going to see where he needs to position that car, because this is where you can do it, Steve. You got to keep the clean air on the front wing of that car. Oh, as I said, caution is out. And I believe, I'm trying to see where the caution is for. It's not for Craig Forsyth. This could be a perfect deal for Craig. Is it for Scott Rankin, I believe? Oh, it is for Scott Rankin. Something happened to 156. So this is going to really change things here because it's going to be very interesting to see who lines up where, because this could be crucial for the lucky dog, as well as, of course, the wave rounds here. And also, though, Steve, this yellow, now the pit window is pretty much a one-stopper to the end for everybody. Even if they pit now, nobody's going to be able to make it on one more stop here. Or make it to the end, I mean, from here.
This really shakes things up, though.
It does. So I'm going to try to find what happened to Scott here. Let's go back to Scott Rankin. It's already happened.
I'm going to make a bet that he pushed off the turn and hit the wall.
Let's see. He is battling. I believe that was with the 18 of Jeff Heisong that he's battling with here. And I think you are spot on, Steve. We'll watch as they come out through turns 3 and 4. So we'll keep it slow here, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think just gets that arrow. Actually, no, he gets loose. Got loose as he was getting on the throttle. Tries to correct it, and actually a pretty heavy shot to the outside wall there. Really ricochets off of it hard, and I think also then has a close moment with the 42. Oh yeah, Carl Henderson just able to sneak around him there, and so that's indeed what's brought out the yellow there. So. Good heads up there by Carl to avoid that incident. We're going to jump to the pit road, though, because Henry Bennett is in. He's got Yari Brupacher, Jim Herrick, and James Ledford in with him. And I believe it is going to be Matt Wagner who's going to get the wave around here, Steve. He's going to get back onto the lead lap, which will now allow him... I mean, at this point, I think he has to. Might as well hit pit road here, get some more fuel, get some fresh tires, because he's going to have to restart behind the end of the field here. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that, but it's going to be Henry Bennett, though, that wins that race off pit road.
I'm sorry, who was it that just that you were just talking about?
Oh, Matt Wagner was the one that got the lucky dog. So he's back on the lead lap, but now also has the opportunity to hit pit road, get some tires and fuel to kind of get back on level ground with Henry Bennett. However, from Craig Forsyth on back... so you got Craig Forsyth, Andrew Wood, Nick DeGroot, Jeff Heisong, Jim Brooks. They're all going to take the wave around to get back onto the lead lap. And then another interesting one here is it looks like, I believe, Joseph Morales and Carl Henderson. We'll keep an eye on those two because they may stay out here to maybe try to get back to one lap down. And as I say that, no, Carl Henderson, he's going to hit pit road here so he's going to stay 2 down, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Matt Wagner does indeed hit pit road. So the strategy call, though, is going to be that 60 though, of Joseph Morales here to go from 2 down to 1 down. I'm sorry. And then Scott Rankin. Oh, it looks like he had to take a tow to get into pit road, so he's going to also be trapped at least a lap or more down as well, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that's I watched his accident, and it was interesting because he was up in the high line, and you would think that would be the least likely place that you would get loose like that. And I'm thinking that he must have really had his weight jacker turned up.
Yeah, it's very possible. Probably got to take care of some spam as per usual that we keep getting from here and there. So getting that taken care of real quick.
So, question, because I always forget this. Matt has the lucky dog. I believe that on the restart, he has to go behind all the lead lap cars. Is that correct or no?
So he's actually, with all of these wave around cars here, he's going to be in a pretty good position, actually, Steve. Matt's going to wind up, I think, cycling out right behind the 42, I believe, of Carl Henderson. He's going to restart behind Carl. So, I mean, Carl, again, is 2 down. So he's going to have a handful of cars. But if you look, I mean, he's basically going to restart in the equivalent of, it looks like the, 6th position, basically. I don't expect Carl to give him too much trouble on this restart. So, yes, I mean, honestly, for all things considered, Matt Wagner's really put himself in the best position that he can compared to all those cars that are taking the wave around right now. As you can see, they're hustling themselves around to track right now. And Scott Rankin is back out on track. He's just 1 lap down, Steve. So, say if we get more yellows, definitely don't count Scott against it.
But I think were it not for that accident, he was on pace to probably have a second place finish in
Yes,
this
I
race.
think even with the whatever pit road miscue he had, I think he was probably holding solid for a second place position because I think just the pit stop time would have been too great. But now, Steve, it's really this is where it's going to get very interesting because again, we talked about that 33, 35, something like that. I mean, we saw Henry, he went 37, but we're going to be restarting here with 41 to go. There's no way anybody's going to stretch that number. I can say with pretty decent confidence for once in my life. So now the question is, how do you run this race? Do you run it backwards possibly? Maybe you jump into pit road as soon as your window's open. Do you run it late? We'll see as Henry Bennett, he has dropped the hammer. He's back underway here. He leads Jari Brubacher, Jim Herrick right now. As I say, the field behind is really stretched out a little bit, so this is going to give Henry some nice breathing room to start off here.
Yeah, Matt's going to have to be in full send mode because, finishing in second place, he was definitely in a good spot to not have to worry too much about Henry Bennett catching him in the points next week. But now
back in fifth and under attack from Craig Forsyth. And Craig is working that top very well here. Even the longer distance, he's actually been able to hold even actually nudging ahead right now. He does take that spot. So drop Matt Wagner actually back to sixth position here. So now you wonder, is there a little bit of strategy at play for some of these guys? That car just does not look happy, though. He's really tight there out of turn number 4. It's going to allow Andrew Wood on by here. So now he's right in front of his championship rival at the moment. As going into tonight, I should say, of Nick DeGroot. But like you said, though, Steve, I mean, looking at Henry Bennett right now leading now Matt Wagner back to 7th position. This is exactly the opposite of what Matt's looking for. So now you wonder, at what point does he consider a gamble as he dives underneath there? Couldn't quite make it stick. But maybe we're going to see some gamblers here maybe try to pit as soon as that window's open. Maybe even try just a splash of fuel if the tire wear is going to allow for it.
I think you're going to see, maybe you'll see somebody take that strategy. I think the more likely one is people are going to split it in half.
Yeah, I said the tire wear would be the question mark. Is if the pace doesn't fall off too much, I think you take basically a split. Once you're in your window, you take the bare minimum you need to get to the end, with being able to run it full rich. The risk, of course, is getting trapped a lap down, of course, just with the pace that Henry Bennett's setting. Right now, he's already got a 1.7 second lead over Jari Brubacher, so that's the gamble. Is if you make that early stop, do you wind up getting trapped once more and then having to do that wave around once again? But yeah, I mean, everybody's really on top of each other right now. Craig Forsyth, he's been one very aggressive on this restart, worked his way back up now into that 5th position with now fighting with Andrew Wood. So it's all to play for here. As again, very tight quarters here between these two. And Andrew Wood's going to grab that spot to move Andrew now up into the top 5. Bump Craig back into 6th. As we've got now 35 to go in this one, Steve. And like I said, right now, Henry Bennett's looking pretty solid here. He's got about 1.8 over Jari Brubacher. Yari's got about 1.3 over Jim Herrick. And then James Ledford as well. Say they decided not to do that short pit strategy. And I mean, it's so far so good. And they got the track position and they're holding on to it very solidly here. So right now, say that strategy's panned out very nicely for these guys.
Yeah, it definitely has. And Nick DeGroot takes a dive under Matt Wagner.
Yeah, those are championship contenders right here. So again, 3 points difference entering tonight's event. So I mean, again, Nick knows that Matt got the pole, so he knows it's basically at this point a 4 point difference between the two of them. So any gap he can get between himself and the 11 is going to be something he wants to do. But I don't know, Steve, just something between that caution and now just that 11 car has not been what it's been all race long. So not sure if Matt's maybe trying an alternate strategy here, maybe trying to save some fuel, something like that. But we are at that magic number. I talked about 33 to go. This time around it's going to be 32 to go. So far nobody's blinking, but yeah, these two are fighting very aggressively here to try to grab this. I say now this being all the way down in that 7th and 8th positions.
I'd be surprised if Matt was trying to save fuel, because there's no way anyone's going to make it 41 laps, I don't think. So, what would be the point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and look how hard he's... I think if he was saving, he wouldn't be fighting Nick DeGroot as hard as he is either. So, just something, maybe the balance has gone off with this car. I mean, and say it's with this being iRacing, you wouldn't expect to have like a set of tires react differently to the car than a previous stint, but we have seen crazier things happen. But right now he's able to just hang on to that spot as Andrew Wood starting to try to put some actually I should say Andrew Wood able to get around James Ledford, apologies. So now Matt move Andrew back up into the 4th position. But yeah, like I said, that Nick DeGroot though, Matt Wagner battle, these guys they're not done here. They're going to continue to fight hard here for that 7th spot.
Well, this could be the battle for the championship right here, depending on what.
Nick extremely loose out of turn 4. Pretty much what we saw happen to Scott Rankin earlier. Just able to catch it there, but it's cost him a couple of car lengths, so he's have to regroup and go back after it. But you're right though, Steve. I mean, yeah, pending Henry just going just lights out these next 2 races, which again I would not put that away aside from him. But right now, like I said, this could be our championship battle. Like I said, right now, the way they're battling right here, it's pretty much if Matt's ahead of him, it's a 5-point lead. If Nick gets back around him, it would go back to a 3-point lead, if I'm not mistaken. Because again, when it's 4th position, you kind of a 2-point swing basically. So we'll have to keep an eye and see how it's all going to pan out on this one. But right now, like I said, Matt fighting for all he is worth to hold off Nick DeGroot. Now he's got a little bit of breathing room now, about that half-second mark. Oh, here he goes. Here's our first. Yep, here's our first strategy call. I thought somebody was going to try it, and it took a little longer than I thought it would. But yeah, here comes Nick DeGroot. He's actually bringing Jim Brooks along with him. So now it's that question mark though: is it fuel only? Are they going to do tires? And then this thing just has to go green for this to work for these guys, because Henry Bennett's right now back on the straightaway already, going to put these guys a lap down before they even hit their pit stall. That's just how fast Henry's been tonight. And
here comes Matt. He is obviously completely focused on Nick DeGroot tonight.
Yeah, saying I saw the car pop up for Nick DeGroot, so that's going to be a 4-tire stop, not a fuel only like we talked about. Maybe, I say, just again, this is just me throwing some ideas out there. But yeah, so now it's going to be kind of the pit road race, how they get in pit road, how they get out of pit road. Nick DeGroot's going to come out in nice clean air, so that will be not an issue for him. And the other thing is Matt Wagner pole sitter. That means he's going to have a little less time to get onto that pit limiter. So sometimes green flag pit stops actually wind up benefiting guys that start a little bit further back. So Craig Forsyth also in here, Steve. All right, Matt Wagner's on the throttle. Again, you're going to see Nick DeGroot in the picture here, this time much sooner than last time, as there's Nick as Matt's getting the throttle down. And this is going to be very tight once again here, Steve. They're about 0.8 of a second now, 0.6 of a second between each other. And it looks like it's going to hold right at about that half-second mark that they had going into it. So right now I'm going to say that's job number 1 done for Matt Wagner to keep that number 89 here in his mirror.
Yep. Now I guess the next question is, how's this going to affect them versus everybody else? Because the other people, the ones that split this in half, are going to have the freshest tires throughout the run.
Yeah, this is a big move right here as well. Matt Wagner able to get around Craig Forsyth. Nick DeGroot's going to try to clear him, but Craig's going to try to work him back on the outside. That's exactly what Matt needed there. He's got a car in between himself and Nick DeGroot, as Andrew Wood in the 64. He hits pit road here. So I'll say that pretty much played out as best as possible for Matt Wagner. But again, right now there's going to be 5 cars on the lead lap here as Henry Bennett goes by once more here at 23 to go. So right now you've got Henry Bennett, Yari Brupacher, Jim Herrick, James Ledford, and Jeff Heisong are the top 5 here. Have yet to pit, but are all sitting on the lead lap as they run.
That worked out really well for Matt because he's got cleaner air right now, and Nick's kind of stuck behind Craig with the dirtier air.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, like I said, I think that played out as best as it could for Matt there. And say for Matt Wagner, he was not able to get around Andrew Wood. And actually need to apologize. Actually, Scott Rankin also he is yet to make his final stop. Again, he still sits 1 lap down here, so he's going to try to go as far as he can, hope for a timely yellow. But right now, it's still those top 5 drivers that are on the lead lap yet to make their pit stop. But again, though, if a caution comes out, if you look at the lucky dog situation, it would actually be Scott Rankin who would be that driver that would get the benefit of that lucky dog if a yellow does come out, as right now he sits ahead of Matt Wagner. Actually, Andrew Wood back in the pit, Steve. Possibly a pit penalty, I would say, possibly an unsafe entry, but actually looks like he's going to park it based on how far he's stopping. So we talked about that bad playoff race that he's been having. It's unfortunate once again gone from bad to worse for that 64.
Well, yeah, I really wonder what happened because I mean he was fast. He was really moving up through the field.
What that it's kind of a wash. I'll say what that does do though is it does give Matt Wagner one more position, but it also gives Nick DeGroot that position as well. So it's again a bit of a wash there. We're going to jump back though to Nick DeGroot here because he is trying everything he can to get around Craig Forsyth. And like you said, Steve, with him being stuck behind Craig here, I wouldn't say stuck because we know how good Craig is, but it's allowed Matt to sneak away to about a 2-second lead as Jeff Heisong, he's going to hit pit road. Another one of our lead lap and playoff contenders hitting pit road there in the 18. Oh, Scott Rankin as well. He actually got a little too aggressive on the entry. Looks like he actually had a pretty big slide there going into pit road. Let's go back. Let's take one more look at that pit lane entry by Scott Rankin here. We'll go full speed. He's just trying to get every little bit he could out of it.
Oh, boy.
Big slide there, but I think for the most part gets away with it there. So we'll jump back live here, though, because now we're all going to be now we just got to wait here, Steve. It's going to be kind of who's going to blink last, I'd say, at this point. Henry Bennett, Yari Brewparker, Jim Herrick, James Ledford. Because when do you feel like you're safe to pit? Because, I mean, the next thing we got to look at is lap times. I feel like at this rate, Henry Bennett's pretty safe because Matt Wagner was a 27.80 last time around to Henry's 27.91. So even with the fresh tires, only a 1/10 of a second difference between that 11 and that 007.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've seen all night. That the fall off just isn't great enough to have made it possible to win with a 3-stop race versus someone that did a 2-stop race, or to pit early as Matt did.
And I'll say while we're watching all that, Steve, do need to mention Nick DeGroot was finally able to get around Craig Forsyth, so he is now up into 6th, just 1 spot behind Matt Wagner. And saying that very exciting pit road entry for Scott Rankin. While it was exciting, it was not helpful for him because it actually made him a 48-second pit stop, which was basically a speeding on pit road. So had a 40-second stop and hold that's now dropped Scott to 4 laps down here, unfortunately, as James Ledford now hits pit road in that 48 car. That's going to leave us 3 drivers yet to make their final pit stop. So right now we've got Henry Bennett, Yari Brewparker, Jim Herrick. Those are the final 3 drivers that have yet to pit. As it stands right now, Lucky Dog position would swing over to Matt Wagner in that 11 car as he's just about to swing on by that number 48 of James Ledford as he does so right there. So that's going to move Matt now up into the 4th position. But again, though, lap time-wise, actually last time by Matt Wagner, 28.14, Henry Bennett and Yari Brewparker, 27.97, 27.98. Right now, actually, Yari and Henry matching lap times, and again, quicker than that 11 car. So right now, these guys going longer is actually really paying off. As I say, Scott Rankin, I think, just driving angry now. He sets the fastest lap of the race at that 27.55.
And Yari's really hanging in there. He's been in the less than 3 seconds off between him and Henry, and I think he's 2.9 behind right now. And I just wonder whether Henry Bennett's so focused on winning this race that he doesn't want to pit before Yari and take a chance on Yari jumping him because they're that close to each other. But I really think at this point Henry can pit whenever he wants.
And that's, again, I mean, that's the question is going to be too. Like I said, at this rate, how far can they go until they have to make that pit stop? And so far, nobody's gambled, Steve. Everybody's gone with 4 tires and fuel. They've all had about 8-second pit stops, roughly. The question is, I mean, let's say right now, I mean, how much is 10 laps of fuel? If you just took a splash, I mean, of course, you have to account for probably having to be a little more careful on the pit exit. But I mean, for Jari Brubacher, is it worth the gamble? I mean, hey, okay, I can try this. I could gain 3 seconds on Henry doing this, maybe get myself in the lead. I've got 4 seconds over Jim Herrick as things run. So, and I guess the question mark is the distance. We don't know what the overall kind of lap time, the one question mark I would have. But as we say, we'll find out right now, because here comes Jari Brubacher. He's going to hit pit road here, coming to 9 to go. Jim Herrick is coming along with him. So these two going to pit together. But once again, Henry Bennett, he's just going to stretch this thing for all it is worth. And so I think at this point, I believe Henry Bennett's been the only driver to lead a lap so far in this race.
And it's actually safe for him to pit now, because the other thing that he would have had to worry about is if he pitted before any of the other guys that were still in the lead lap, and then the yellow came out and he was a lap down, he would probably lose his chance at winning this race. Now he can pit. He'll still come out ahead of everybody.
Yeah, exactly right. And I said, looking at the pit stop time, Jari had a 9-second stop. Looks like Jim Herrick, I think, got too fast on entry here. Steve, here comes Henry Bennett, though. He's going to make his final stop nice and clean there. Made sure no risk of speeding. But unfortunately, Jim Herrick, he's still sitting on pit road about 40 seconds in now. Probably got about 8 more before they release him. So unfortunately, that last stop just a little too aggressive for Jim Herrick. That's going to now move him way down the running order, as now we're going to have to watch Jari Brubacher, Matt Wagner. And it looks like Yari's going to come out pretty solidly, probably about 3 seconds ahead of Matt. But we're going to watch Henry Bennett here to see now how does he relate to Jari Brubacher. And it looks like, again, no strategy calls here. Everybody's doing the 4 tires and fuel. So nobody liked my fuel-only strategy there, Steve. So unfortunately, my feelings are hurt. I'm used to making the wrong calls here. But it looks like Henry Bennett's going to safely be able to get out of pit road. Because right now, as he comes out of turn number 2, Yari's about to head out of 2. We'll look out the back. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Look out the front of Jari Brubacher's car. But you can see as he's down the middle, there goes Henry entering turn 3. So yeah, it's still about that 2.5 seconds. He gained a little bit of time, but Henry's still got plenty of margin to play with here as we're down. This time around, it's going to be 6 to go. So as they run now with Steve, all pit stops accounted for. Henry Bennett continues to lead now over Jari Brubacher. Matt Wagner drops to the 3rd position. So that's, I say, in the whole grand scheme of things, this is going to be, again, a bit of a net gain for Henry, because it's going to drop Matt a little bit further back. So it won't be 2nd place points now to be 3rd place points. Nick DeGroot right now still sits in 4th, so only 1 spot behind Matt Wagner. But as they run, I believe it would be 2 points lost to the 11 car. Craig Forsyth rounding out our top 5, but he is under pressure from Jeff Hysong. You know Jeff's going to try to get into that top 5 in that 18 car, and they've got about 7 laps difference on tires, Steve. We talked about that earlier. We'll see if that makes a difference between the two of them, as we got 5 to go here. And then we have James Ledford and Jim Brooks right now rounding out our top drivers on the lead lap. As yet, there goes Jeff Hysong. He's going to grab that 5th spot.
And I'm just thinking, you know that Matt would really like to catch Jari and pass him and get back into 2nd, so he doesn't lose any more points to Henry. But he's just got too much of a gap.
Yeah, I'm saying Jari. I don't think Yari's going to roll out 2.5, 3 seconds to Matt Wagner. So yeah, I think right now, Matt's just going to kind of have to see where the chips fall after tonight. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be a net gain in points for him. He's going to grow the gap as things run over Nick DeGroot. Like I said, I think it's going to go from 3 to 5 entering Indy. But man, I don't think you can count Henry Bennett out after this one. I'll say, well, to see what the points look like. But I mean, that's just, this man's been on a tear last week and tonight here. And so if he can do this one more week at Indy, I think, like I said, it's going to be right on the number. If he can do what he has done here once again, lead the most laps. The only thing he didn't do tonight was get the pole position. I mean, he was only off of that by 1 position here, Steve. So that's the only thing he's missing right now. But with that, though, Henry Bennett's going to take the white flag here at Twin Ring Motegi. We got 1 to go. Behind him, Jari Brubacher still holding safely in second position. I say pretty much everybody's all nicely spread out, so let's go ahead and cruise to the finish here. We'll hop on board with our race leader of Henry Bennett, as he's just going to, I think, kind of set cruise control, as it feels like he's been all race long here as he comes through 3 and 4 for the final time, right behind that number 156 of Scott Rankin, as Henry Bennett's going to take the win here at Twin Ring Motegi. Jari Brubacher going to bring it home in second position there. Matt Wagner coming out of 4. He's going to grab that 3rd spot. His championship rival right behind him, Nick DeGroot, in 4th. And then Jeff Hysong, like we saw, got around Craig Forsyth. He grabs 5th. Craig in 6th. James Ledford in 7th. And then rounding out our lead lap finishers is going to be that 51 of Jim Brooks in the 8th position.
Well, I know that Matt's going to be disappointed, but he did what he needed to do to retain the lead in the championship points.
Yeah, exactly right.
And he stretched it out a teeny bit over Nick DeGroot. And we got Indy next week, as you said, and that's going to be a lot harder for someone to go out there and dominate.
Yeah, exactly right. So say before we start pulling up some interviews, we're going to watch Henry Bennett. So as we watch him as well, we're going to go over our final results, as it's going to be, again, Henry Bennett getting the win by about 3 seconds over Jari Brubacher, Matt Wagner in 3rd, Nick DeGroot 4th, Jeff Hysong 5th, Craig Forsyth, James Ledford, Jim Brooks rounding out our lead lap finishers, and Jim Herrick, Joseph Morales rounding out our top 10 1 lap down. And then some of the drivers not the nights they were looking for. Scott Rankin, of course, was one of those that was probably sitting pretty in 11th place, was probably looking at 2nd place with the fuel strategy, unfortunately. Say the incident that cost him that position. Carl Henderson, early damage, just never able to recover in 12th. And like we said, Andrew Wood, it's just been a dismal playoff for him in that number 64. He finishes in 13th. Jimmy Dryden 14th, and Charles Teed, unfortunately, in that 15th position. Also a tough night for more of our playoff contenders.
But we do have, let's see, the top 6 spots for all playoff contenders.
Yeah, and that's what makes it tough, is that when they're that close to one another, I mean, there's only so much you can do here. And I think Henry's going to be pretty happy to say, well, I'm going to try to see if we can get the points info, or the race info, I should say, before we get to Henry's interview, because that's going to be also a very interesting story to kind of see what they had points wise and lap led and all that. So we're going to kick things off, though. We're going to start off with our 3rd place finisher of Matt Wagner. So we're going to hunt Matt on down here and bring him on in. All right, bringing in our pole sitter and 3rd place finisher here tonight, Matt Wagner. Well, I mean, Matt, it's probably pretty much, I mean, it's a good result. I know it's not the result you want, of course. Let's say we made comments of you hold no secrets that you really, really enjoy this track. And I'd say, I mean, obviously you started off exactly where you wanted to, get that pole position, get that bonus point, but then just Henry doing Henry things, man. I'd say he's able to hold on to that lead through turns 3 and 4, grab lap number 1, and then from there just is able to kind of sneak away, and at the same time really run some great fuel numbers as well. And Steve and I were kind of running the numbers again, once again, everybody proving us wrong. It's like, no, nobody can two-stop this 110 laps. That would be about 4 laps past what these guys are scheduled that they can do. And Henry Bennett, Scott Rankin, they pull 37 laps out of their hat there. I mean, did you have any thoughts of trying to make that two-stopper, or did you just feel like there's just no realistic way you could pull that off tonight?
There's no realistic way to pull that off. 38 was the target goal. But yeah, he made a nice little inside move, and that was it. I tried to see if I can get near him, but that dirty air just wasn't having it. So, would I have done something differently? Yes, I probably would have. If I would have drove a little bit more defensively, I probably would have held on to it, but I'm not that guy. But I'm going to have to learn sooner or later.
Matt, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
I know that caution kind of broke at the exact wrong time for you. you did at least get the lucky dog, but that obviously put you in a lot more dirty air with a lot more cars ahead of you that you had to get by. I really thought, as much as you love this track, that you were going to just charge your way forward and start passing people, and all of a sudden we see Craig Forsyth got by you on the outside, and I think Andrew Wood got by also. And I'm wondering, like, what happened
I
with your.
think. Well, yeah, I'll explain that. What I think was, I think I've accidentally hit my fuel map. I started looking down. I'm like, oh shit! I had it in 3, and that's why people are going by me so quick. So what happening was I was overdriving turn 3, and it was getting people that clean air on the inside, and I kept overdriving 3. So it was a little bit of both.
Okay. And what about, did you do much playing with the weight jacker and other settings that you could do?
Yeah, I did. It helped tremendously. Once I stopped overdriving it, I was able to keep Nick behind me. When he was battling me for that nice little 5 laps there, I said, that's when I noticed when the fuel map 3, I was like, oh crap.
Oh my God.
So I so I started driving defensively and turned it right back up. Then he followed suit behind me. Then he pitted, and I followed right behind him. Hopefully, I would gain some time on those guys up front, and I just wasn't happening.
Well, we kind of, I could kind of tell that that you were kind of focusing more on Nick than you were on Henry once he drove away from you and you couldn't make it as far as he did. So and that was a hell of a battle you guys had for those 5 laps. So
Yeah, I could not let him in front of me. That is my main goal. Once you give up a spot, there goes the points, and it's just I got to drive defensively. I got to take the line away from it. I know it's kind of dirty, but you got to do what you got to do, but cleanly though. It was fun, but that caution, what you said, that hurt really bad. That hurt our strategy really bad, and either number one, I was going to be right behind Henry when he come out of the pits, or number 2, I was going to be right in front of him, and I had no clue what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was pretty wild the way, like you said, the strategies were playing out and who was going to go how far. It looked like it was pretty much going to be Henry and Scott as they were running with the green flag, that they would probably be able to make it on the 2-stopper, as they were able to go the furthest of anybody on that first stop, and then obviously they were aiming for it on that second one too. But like I said, as a whole, I'd say you're going to gain a couple of points on Nick there, say getting the pole position, finishing ahead of him. But yeah, so obviously next week we got Indy to finish things off. I say, of course, Indy kind of its own animal there. But obviously I'd say it's one of those things, you're gonna have one eye obviously on Nick, but how much are you gonna be kind of keeping an eye on Henry Bennett as well, just knowing what he's done these last 2 races?
Henry is a tough competitor, bar none. So, excuse me. I won't take him lightly. I never have and never will. He's just as aggressive as Nick there, if not maybe more. But both are phenomenal drivers. But I haven't looked at the points yet. Him missing 1 race and he win 2 races in a row. It's pretty impressive from Mr. Lucky coming up from that nice little drive he had. Lucky guy. So, yeah, I'm not going to take him lightly. Nick either. So once I look at the points, I'll go see if I can try and win an Indy.
Yeah, so I'm keeping an eye on the points as we talk as well. Say, it hasn't been updated yet, so I'm sure you'll probably know as soon as anybody. But before we let you go, though, Matt, just awesome job. Like I said, 3 down, 1 to go. You're going to leave tonight with that points lead. Like I said, I think probably about 5 points, if my math is right, over Nick. But definitely want to give you a shout out for your run here tonight, getting that 3rd spot.
Well, this is my last race on the computer, but I'm not going to smash it. I won't smash it. This thing has been a nice run on this PC. It's time to move on to something greater and better. As soon as I get off here with this interview, I'm going to start putting her together. So thanks to my sponsors, to all the HyperX, Air 51, put on a good show. MC Gear, Troy Lee Designs, and you guys broadcasting at Green White Checker do an awesome job every time. Love you guys.
Love you too, Matt. Good luck with that new build. It's going to be like, bringing a whole new chassis next week.
Yeah, thanks, Mighty.
Yeah, don't get too distracted by the eye candy once you get all up and running, man. But yeah, great job tonight, Matt. And yeah, definitely look forward to hearing how the new computer treats you. Obviously, I've got a little bit vested in it since I kind of pointed it to you, so I'll feel guilty if it's not what it should be. But yeah, just awesome job, though. A great run this evening, and look forward to seeing you next week at the finale at Indy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, that's going to now bring us to our second place finisher, and that's going to be the number 49 of Jari Brupacher. So we're going to drag Jari on in here. Started in 6 finishes in second. Jari, I had some strategies. I'll tell you can tell me how bad they would have been. But Steve and I were talking. You were holding pace. You were right on line with Henry Bennett. Pretty much that whole final run, you guys are running within hundreds of each other. But Steve and I were discussing, and I was thinking, okay, that final stop. What about short pitting early, and just taking fuel there? Because I think you would have needed probably maybe about 5-6 laps at the most of fuel, and save those tires. Maybe save you, because that would save you maybe about 3, 4, 5 seconds possibly, or was that just the tires, was the wear or the temperature, just was it too much for you to even try to consider that gamble?
Well, I definitely considered it, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to risk it. Basically, the caution that fell earlier was very lucky for me, and didn't want to risk being on the other end of the luck spectrum in that case with another caution. And so I just decided to basically stay in second. I felt I didn't have the speed for Henry. Especially since he seemed to save fuel a little more than I did, and yeah. So I thought about it for a second, but then I dismissed it and just tried to stay out as long as I could.
Now,
So you basically wanted to make sure you stayed out till the very end, so that Henry wouldn't be out too much longer than you, and you didn't risk going down a lap.
Exactly. I wanted to stay on the lead lap, and I saw the guys that pitted earlier were gaining a little bit on me, so I also was a little. Let's say I was a little scared if I pitted early or anything, that I would get into a fight with them, and I saw that I could keep with Henry. Once, as I said, I suspected he was saving fuel. And when I saw that and saw that Henry stayed out, I guess that it's probably the right decision to do so, since he seems to be right often when it comes to this strategy.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
How'd the car feel to you tonight?
In the first stint, it was a little bit difficult. I think I hadn't found the right weight checker and ARB settings yet. I tried something during the second stint, and I think it worked quite well. And I was also able to follow better. That was a huge problem. Dirty air is massive on this track, especially in turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, it definitely looked that way from where we sat.
Yeah, it was basically once you get within maybe somewhere 1.5 or 2 seconds, it just started to push you up to the wall. It was really difficult to get past anybody, especially if the guy in front had clean air.
Yeah, and that kind of showed that way too. Because there's portions during the race where you're exactly right. Like the intervals between the car was literally like 1.5, 2 seconds, pretty much from car to car. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Is just you kind of get to that dirty air, and then you kind of would stall out. Even with a track this wide, you have opportunities obviously to move around, but obviously it's not the fastest way. You always want to be obviously trying try to apex the turns, get the shortest distance, especially like through 1 and 2 where you can pretty much flat-foot it there, especially in the clean air, of course. But yeah, I mean, again, let's say a great run for you though, because I get in that second, and let's say we're talking. I mean, Henry's just been on a roll these last couple of races for sure. So I don't think it's a bad decision on your end to kind of go with what he's doing, because obviously it's been working here tonight, and like you said, that in that second run, you guys you going longer it allowed you to trap a lot of cars a lap down, make them have to take that wave round, and put you guys in a much more comfortable position as well. So yeah, it definitely played out well. So just awesome job tonight, Yari, to get in that second place. Like I said, one of our higher climbers, especially to get up to second as well. So hats off to you there as well. So before we let you go, though, as always, of course, want to give you the floor. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that second place tonight?
Well, just as always, want to thank everybody in the league. It's real fun racing here. Wasn't the highest car count we had today, but I think it was great. Probably for the racing, since Dirty Air was massive. So yeah, it's just real fun racing here, and I want to thank everybody who makes it possible.
Yeah, I was telling Steve, it kind of went back to the throwback of the kart IRL days, where IRL was here and kart was over at Long Beach, if I remember right. So say that maybe the other Area 51 guys are racing over in California or something.
Yeah, probably. I think Danica Patrick won that race.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, we did a little bit of little trivia on what happened, what years and stuff, and yeah, exactly right. So this was Danica Patrick's one IndyCar victory here at Twin Ring. So definitely not Henry's first win with Area 51 here, but yeah. I'll say we'll have a chat with him in a minute too. But yeah, just awesome job though tonight, Yari. Like I said, doing everything you can as well for that points battle. So I'm not sure exactly where you sit going into the finale. Been kind of keeping an eye on the points, haven't seen it yet. But I mean, obviously a great result going into next week at Indy. Are you thinking points at all there, or is that just? I mean, is Indy just Indy is Indy? You want to try to win that race whenever you get the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little back, and I guess I'm still probably 35 points back, so I'm not really going for points. I just want to win the race.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you run there next week. I say we've seen you get the win last season. I believe it was at Auto Club or Mission. Can't remember which, but
Auto Club.
Okay, so I would not be surprised to see you in the running that Indy as well. It's always one that's fun to watch. So yeah, so good luck though. So enjoy this one though, Yari. You definitely look forward to seeing you next week going for that win.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, great job, Yari.
Thank you.
All right, Steve. That leaves us one man to talk to, and that is our race winner in that number 007, and that's gonna be Mr. Henry Bennett. And as I'm waiting for the points and everything, or the results to get uploaded, Henry. But if I'm not mistaken, if not for, I believe you went flag to flag there, leading every lap of this one tonight. Last week at Phoenix, I think you led all but about 15 or so laps, just with the kind of the caution timings and things of that nature. We talked about it last week. If you could continue this roll to see maybe you could kind of put a dent in that championship lead and have a chance going into it next week. And you said you're going to go for it, and you haven't put a foot wrong so far here tonight.
I can't help but feel slightly disappointed that I didn't get all the points possible, missing out on pole and fastest lap point. I think there's a point for fastest lap. I might be mistaken.
I think there is or was. I'll have to check. I'll double check actually right now.
But yeah, I missed out on those, unfortunately. But I could have dropped back at the end of the race and tried to get fastest lap without traffic, but that possibly would have been too much of a risk to. Because I was only 3 seconds ahead of Yari. But yeah, did almost everything I planned to. Yeah, happy to get the win. But yeah, looking forward to seeing the points and working out what I need to do for the final.
And sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, my hunch, based on how many points you gained last week, is I think it's going to be mathematically possible for you to get up there and win it next week.
I hope so. But yeah, I think regardless, I'm going to be having to go for the win next week, which I would have done anyway if I wasn't in the running. So yeah, same strategy.
we were really surprised that with you having the clean air, not having any draft, that first run of the race, that you were able to stretch it as far as you did. How close were you?
I'm not close on fuel at all. Yeah, easily made the 37 laps. Obviously helped that people couldn't pass me with the dirty air, but with the nature of this track, with the big slowdown into turn 3, you could really save a lot of fuel by lifting and coasting there, and fuel maps helped a bunch. I'm just surprised more people didn't try and save fuel, because the 2-stopper was definitely possible.
Yeah, when I saw you do that, I was surprised as well. Just you and Scott Rankin were, I believe, the only two that did it. And after that, I was like, well, if this stays green, I'm pretty sure Henry's got it in the bag.
Yeah, I mean, like always, the danger is people pitting early, making up time on new tyres, and then before I have to pit, and then cautions coming out once they've got track position after I stop. But I don't think there was a huge differential between my saving times, the times I was doing whilst I was saving, and what people were doing in clean air without saving. So I wasn't too worried, but it's always at the back of your mind that they're going to gain track position on you at the worst time possible.
Yeah, definitely. And we were kind of noticing that too, that there just didn't seem to be that big an advantage to short pitting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the only time in the race I wasn't fuel saving was that after my very last stop, trying to go for fastest lap. But even before that, after the restart, I was fuel saving just in case a caution came out and I could maybe stretch it without stopping again, or just to make sure I was the last one to stop in case there was a caution under the green flag stops.
Yeah, so this will help you for next week in Indy, for you not to worry about it. Is actually there is apparently this change between last season and this season. Yeah, so there is actually no bonus point for the fastest lap anymore. So you didn't miss out on one of those. So like I said, the only one you missed out is the pole position there. So at least that's maybe makes you feel a little better. So you're pretty much max points -1 at this rate, Henry. But you mentioned though, say for that fastest lap, just looking at the numbers. I mean, your best was a 27:63. Matt Wagner 27:64. Craig Forsyth at 27:62. Let's say then Scott Rankin. I think I was talking about it with Steve too, or I think he's just at that point. Let's say he had that mistake and that dropped him a couple laps, where he just was like, you know what, I'm just going for it. Got a pit penalty, and so he puts down a 27:55, I think. So say just kind of decided, let me see what I can actually do with this thing at that point, because I think he was maybe 2 or so laps down after that. So yeah, I mean, you guys, I'd say fast lap though. I mean, you championship contenders are right on top of each other there.
Yeah, I mean, I still would have liked fastest lap, but yeah, Scott. I spoke to Scott just after the race, and yeah, he said he intentionally dropped back from traffic just to make sure he could get that fastest lap in while the tyres were fresh. But yeah, and it's just so happened that when I came out of my last stop when I was going for fastest lap, Scott was the guy, the traffic in front of me, causing me to lose time in the corners and not be able to get close to his lap. So, but yeah. So yeah, kind of glad that I didn't lose out on that point.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, unfortunately missed the first one. I'd say that being said, I think probably a lot of other drivers here they'd be willing to trade missing that first race for getting to do some of the experience that you got to have. So we'll definitely have to chat with you some more about that at some point, because we'd love to kind of get your take on doing this versus the real deal of racing as well. So we'll say maybe we can try to get you either pre-race or during ELO, or if we can just work the timing out better for a future race. Because it'd be a lot of fun to hear what you got to experience, and maybe things that you either learned from iRacing that you got to use there, or vice versa, even maybe some things you found in the real deal to help you out over here. But yeah, just awesome job though tonight, Henry. Like I said, I'm still refreshing, haven't seen the points as of yet, so I guess we'll leave that a mystery for the broadcast for next week. But before we let you go though, Henry, definitely want to give you the floor for just an outstanding race tonight. Any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for getting that win here this evening?
Shout out to Powerslide Motorsports, great support as always, and really strong team. Shout out to Matt and Jim, who put on an amazing league. Yeah, really happy to be part of it, and always great racing with everyone in the league. And yeah, as usual, shout out to you guys. Fantastic job with the broadcasts. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, and actually, Henry, I said they just put the points up, and I can confirm 110 lap race, 110 laps led by Mr. Henry Bennett. So great job there. And yeah, your fast lap was on lap 106 of 110, so you definitely went for it there. And so now the critical one, those the points. And so going into our finale at Indianapolis, it's Matt Wagner leading Nick DeGroot by 7 points. So my math not 100% there, Steve. I thought it was going to be 5. It's actually 7. And then you are going to be 16 out of the lead, Henry. So I was saying, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you were 32 or 30. Let me say, because I think you pretty much did exactly that gap right there.
I think you had said
34,
yeah.
Yep.
So that's an 18-point gain.
Yeah, 34 to 16. So if you can do that again, Henry, next week, maybe you can give yourself a margin of 2 points, so you can still find yourself being this season's Area 51 champion.
Yep, it's going to be a tough job though, knowing how strong Matt and Nick are at Indy. But yeah, I think I'm still going to have to go for the win, and them to come in third or worse.
Yeah, it's gonna, I think, all come down to bonus points. I say getting the pole position, and I think even more critically, of course, that the one thing we didn't mention is the 0 incident points as well. I mean, if you get caught in anything you lose, I believe it's either 3 or 5 bonus points there too. So I think that's going to be the other one, is to keep that car clean from start to finish though. So but yeah, so say we got the points now, so you know what you're looking at for next week in Indy. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what you've got up your sleeve, because let's say there's definitely no lack of talent behind the wheel there, Henry. So enjoy this one for sure, and then look forward to seeing you go for it all next week at Indy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Definitely. Congrats on that win tonight and what you've done these last 2 weeks.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, that is our race winner, Henry Bennett, in that 007. As I say, continues to celebrate there, looking at the replay of his burnouts. But yeah, Steve, I mean, 110 of 110 laps here tonight. I'm going to go back to Phoenix and look at the numbers there once more as well, because it was right similar, a little longer race, but was right about that as well. Just completely dominant these last 2 weeks.
Yep, he's done what he needed to do, and like you said, the only thing he missed out on was the pole position tonight. But that's, if he loses the championship by 1 point, I guess he can kick himself for that. But this is going to make Indy next week really exciting, because first of all, Matt and Nick DeGroot, they're both going to be racing each other really hard, because they're close enough that it could go either way. And then both of them are going to have to worry about not letting Henry get the pole, lead the most laps, and win the race. Because if he does that, he could leapfrog both of them and win the championship. So really, it's going to be exciting next week. And Indy's the kind of track where there's a lot more passing than what we saw tonight.
Yeah, say Indy. There's always going to be passing at Indy, just the way that track is built. And yeah, so for the Phoenix race last week, 111 laps out of 125 for Henry there. And again, we talked about some of the potential things that could be a playoff changers. Remember Matt Wagner mentioning he made a mistake in qualifying, still finished in second, and that actually got him the highest climber award. So that bonus point for being the highest climber in the race, I mean, we'll have to see what the points look like at the end of the season, but even something like that, Steve, that could make the difference between Matt winning and losing this championship as well. Just that one, kind of, like you said, the happy little accident, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, that's going to do it for us here tonight at Green White Checker TV. Again, as always, really want to thank you all for watching and for supporting us. But yeah, and also just great job by all the drivers here. Like I said, 8 drivers finishing on the lead lap here tonight. And I say not a lot of drivers with any incident points, so there's a lot of bonus points there. And it is indeed 5 bonus points for a 0 incident race, so those drivers are going to have to keep that in mind as well to keep it clean to the end. And it's just, it's going to be all about who finishes where, Steve, the point differentials. And it's actually 7 points between Matt and Nick DeGroot, not the 5 I thought it was going to be. And we'll go into that more, of course, going into next week's race. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching this one. Look forward to getting. Somehow we're already time for the season finale, which is just in time for the holidays. So definitely look forward to catching you there. We'll be back on Thursday night for the Super Speedway Truck Series race number 3 of 4 over there, and then starting on Sunday, will be our final championship weekend week. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday will be our championship races before we take a little bit of a break over the holidays. Steve, as always, sir, pleasure being able to share the booth with you, man. Looking forward to next week. Like I said, I'll give you a little bit of a break, then we'll go strong here, hopefully in 2022.
Sounds good to me, Kyle. And as always, a great time sitting here in the booth with you. And look forward to next week. Next week is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I feel like Indy's pretty much the best place to really have the season finale for this Indy series. It kind of encapsulates everything with the league, and Indy cars. You just got to finish it, Indy. I think that just works out well with this league. So definitely stay tuned. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna have a handful of drivers in contention for that championship, and you never know. We talk about it every week. Bonus points. Every point matters. We'll see how it shakes out next week. So until then, though, have a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you next week. And I'll catch you as well once again on Thursday for race number 3 at Talladega for the Super Speedway Truck Series. Until then, though, have a good night, everyone.